100 white South Africans are expected to arrive in the country out of 8,000 or so applications. How is this being received in the US? Are there concerns, particularly by refugee advocacy groups, for example?
Not that I haven't been screaming that this is about racism, but Trump confirmed it. Trump has chartered a plane with our tax money to go to South Africa and pick up a bunch of white South African refugees and bring them to the United States.
I know it's shocking that we'd have to talk about race more, but of course we do. Okay, so even though they're going around the country just scooping up people off the streets everywhere, children, blah, 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 deporting them right and left, but we're taking in 8,000 white South Africans into the country tomorrow.
Here's Joe from Georgia. So Donald Trump earlier this year stopped letting refugees come into the United States. However, undoubtedly he's making an exception. He's making an exception for white residents of South Africa to come in refugee status here in the United States.
So Trump signed an executive order to bring white South African refugees to America, despite the fact that they suspended any sort of immigration into the U.S.
Hello, it is Sumi here. I hope you are fine today. I hope you're doing well, whatever you're at. And also, if you see me for the very first time, I hope you do consider subscribing on the channel for more reaction videos like this. Please also tap on that bell so that every time I upload anything on here, you're always notified. So apparently, white people are pissed. White people are not buying the executive order that Donald Trump had to sign, bringing in white South Africans in America as refugees. They are calling it racism because they think Donald Trump is using their money to do all this. And for the fact that very many people are being deported from America and now he's bringing in refugees, this is ridiculous. Now, me as an African, my question is, why are these people pissed? Why don't they like it that President Donald Trump is allowing white South Africans into America? I mean, where do they want these white South Africans to be? Because all I think is that these white South Africans, they belong in those countries, those Western countries. They don't belong in Africa. They are not Africans. So all they have to do, they just have to accept it. Either they come to America or to the UK, anywhere they go, these are white people and therefore they don't belong to Africa. If they were black people, then I'll be like, okay, you can bring them back to Africa because at least they have the originality of being an African. But these are not Africans. These are white people. They literally don't belong to Africa at all. So dear white people, don't even feel bad that why is Donald Trump bringing in other people, these white South Afrikaners into America. Just embrace your people. Those are your problems. Just embrace them, take them in. There is nothing to do about this.
Make this make sense. Trump wants to get rid of all the black and brown immigrants in this country, but yet he wants to import white refugees from South Africa. Make it make sense.
They only want white people here. Because when we think about refugees who need immediate resettlement, expedited screenings, we usually think about people who are fleeing extreme violence, persecution, famine, war in places like South Sudan, Myanmar, the Congo, not white Afrikaners. See that chartered plane the Trump administration is sending? It's not going to collect refugees that have been sitting in resettlement camps for years, fully vetted, waiting to come to the United States to escape violence. No, it's going to South Africa to collect white people people who claim they're being discriminated against. Why would they be getting discriminated against? Probably because they spent generations instituting legalized forms of racial segregation and discrimination called apartheid, aka Stephen Miller's wet dream. See, while the rest of the world after World War II saw that maybe racial discrimination not such a hot idea and favored more policies of integration and away from colonization, Afrikaners doubled down on that shit and instituted apartheid. Although it ended over 30 years ago, the social and economic legacies of apartheid continue today. South Africa is the most unequal country in the entire world, according to the World Bank, with white South Africans earning over 12 times what black South Africans do. But don't worry, we're going to make sure that the white Afrikaners who instituted generations of discrimination and segregation against black people get everything they need to get started here in the United States in their new life.
Well, 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 I have got some hot tea in the brew for you, baby. Now grab your cup and pull on up because we're about to break it down expeditiously. If you remember last week, I did a video called A Lesson is in Session. As a matter of fact, I think it was Saturday, just like today, but just a week back. Either way, in that video, I broke down their real plans, you know, the white man. And now he's so very terrified that there's not enough white here on his side. Yes, it just so happens on Monday, we're getting a whole plane load of white into town. From out of town. Yes, you know, they told you the mass deportations that we were doing to get rid of the brown had nothing to do with them being brown, but it had to do with the fact that they were all criminals, violent, in fact. And then they started deporting grandmothers and grandfathers and even babies and 2-year-olds, too. I wonder what a 2-year-old could have possibly done to you. But either way, back in February, he pulled out his Sharpie one night and he signed an executive order to put some whites on a flight. And Monday is that day. Here's some receipts for you because this story is absolutely true. The Trump administration is chartering a plane to bring the first white South Africans to the USA as refugees, baby. Like I said on Monday, I do believe to Dallas is where they will be flying in on their flight. All you gotta be is white. Yes, tell me again how it's all about violent criminals and has nothing to do with their skin color, my friends, even though we're deporting 2-year-old children today, even kids with cancer. Have to get on a plane and depart out of our way. Yes, I don't want to hear another Republican, a Republicant, and a Republicant come at me and try to pull some it's not racial stunt. And by the way, y'all remember that little rumor that was about Alonia Muskrat over there in Texas building a little city? Yes, all the MAGA were getting excited. They thought they were going to be able to move to Alonia's new city that was being built with homes and even schools. Well, apparently, boo, that city wasn't built for you, but for more South African immigrants that are white, like Alonia Muskrat. Oh, well. I guess they're doing more for whites that don't live here than they're actually doing for whites that live here as they're stripping your rights of due process away from you. But the brown can't stay around. And by the way, if you are in South Africa today and you think you're going to board that plane and come over here and everything's going to be fine, honey, you are insane. Don't believe that lie. You will still be outnumbered here if you just so happen to think it's okay to hate the black and brown, dear. Anyway, please, please share this video because I think we need to get it out into the everywheres. And one more thing. Apparently these are supposed to be farmers coming here to plow the land. Maybe you should look at what, well, that orange man is currently doing to farmers who actually live in this land. Okay.
Trump administration is set to fly in tens of thousands of South African white people to the United States as refugees next week. And yet Kilmar Abrego Garcia sits in an El Salvadorian prison for what? For what? Things that you couldn't prove. If you don't remember, back in January 20th, Trump signed an executive order basically stating, we don't want to bring in any more refugees. We're not bringing in any more refugees. Although we know that executive orders don't hold legal weight and it's more than a statement. This is definitely contradicting, isn't it? Well, it's not, because he's a racist. A racist goes against his own actual public statement saying that we can't accept more refugees, but constantly tries to kick out any brown person or any non-white person in this country because of their refugee status, even if they're here legally or not. Now, we know Elon Musk is from South Africa, of course, but he added to this conversation in saying that Africa has not done well at stopping racism and overall violence towards white farmers in Africa. I wonder why. It couldn't be because of the apartheid. Huh? It couldn't be because you made them slaves. This is just another I am outside and I am a racist agenda from Donald Trump, and he proves it in real time. He does not care what he contradicts.
Here's Joe from Georgia. So, Donald Trump earlier this year stopped letting refugees come into the United States. However, undoubtedly he's making an exception. He's making an exception for white residents of South Africa to come in refugee status here in the United States. They've even got their first plane load coming, which the United States government has arranged for them. Now, I do believe that most of us, when they say the word immigrants or refugees or whatever, they think of everybody. But now it's been reduced to an exception for white people only. So, once again, if we don't believe that this immigration war specifically is against black and brown people, you're not paying attention.
To all of the South African Afrikaans refugees that are coming to America soon, I just want to let you know, as someone whose wife is Afrikaans, who's been to South Africa multiple times, you're going to have a bad time. There's no white genocide happening in South Africa. You have crime that's happening as a result of racism-fueled generational economic inequality, the same thing that's happening in America. We're just a couple decades ahead of you on the unchecked capitalism timeline. But I have good news for you. You don't have to worry about the cheap exploited labor rising up against you anymore, because now that you're in America, you'll get to be the cheap exploited labor. If you were middle class or upper middle class in South Africa and you come to America, you're poor now. Like, really poor. You're not going to have maids and gardeners and personal servants that you can pay $15 a day for. Now you get to be the cheap labor. But by all means, please come to America and experience the American capitalism that Elon Musk's been raving about to you. You'll probably love it. You know, what do I know? There's probably very little chance that you'll end up going back to South Africa in a year or two after realizing how overpriced and fucked up America is. I wouldn't even worry about that as a possibility. And if you think I'm being mean to these people because I think they're a bunch of racist, bigoted colonizers who wish they could go back to apartheid South Africa, it's just because I do think that. But to them, I say, welcome to the American dream. Please let me know when you've woken up from it.
Not that I haven't been screaming that this is about racism, but Trump confirmed it. Trump has chartered a plane with our tax money to go to South Africa and pick up a bunch of white South African refugees and bring them to the United States. Trump's administration is aiming to bring the first group, there's going to be more groups, of South Africans to the United States via its refugee program as soon as next week. A divisive effort given that Trump has been blocking refugee admissions from the rest of the world. Okay, so we know this has got something to do with Elon. It's probably like his fucking family or something like that. The Trump administration aims to fly the initial cohort of about 50 Afrikaners into Washington, Dulles, requesting anonymity to share internal plans. The group would participate in a press conference at the airport and then board flights to their U.S. destinations. Trump kicked off a wide-ranging immigration crackdown after taking office in January, including an indefinite suspension of refugee resettlement. In a related executive order, Republican President said the U.S. would only admit refugees who can fully and appropriately assimilate. Lord. Despite the broad refugee freeze, Trump in February called on the U.S. to prioritize resettling Afrikaners, descendants of mostly Dutch early settlers, saying they were victims of unjust racial discrimination. The white people were victims of discrimination. Oy. The assertion that minority white South Africans face discrimination from the black majority has spread in far-right circles for years and been echoed by Trump's white South African-born ally Elon Musk. The average white household in South Africa owns 20 times the wealth of the average black household, according to the Review of Political Economy. Don't ever tell me it's not about racism ever again.
The US is preparing for the arrival of white refugees early next week from South Africa. This follows Trump's executive order on February 7th. The South African government has stated that the order lacks factual accuracy and fails to recognize South Africa's profound and painful history.
So South Africa's own government is even coming out today and telling Trump, if you want to take on these refugees, that's on you. But just so you know, none of them have been properly vetted. A lot of them have been involved in protests that are pro-apartheid. And on top of that, these guys are actually claiming that they're being persecuted for being white. I don't know if you know a whole lot about South Africa, where Elon Musk is from, but the apartheid just ended not very long ago. If you don't know what that is, it was mass segregation. South Africa's government also came out and added that it's really hard to be a refugee of persecution when you're amongst the most highest earners and highly educated in the entire region. But in my personal opinion, this kind of gives me remnants of Operation Paperclip, what the US government did after World War II. They got a little over 1,500 German scientists and high-ranking officials from the military, Hitler's military, to come over to the United States so they could learn from them. Now, I'm no mathematician, but 2 + 2 = 4. What Trump's been doing here in the United States as far as deporting individuals, they've all been brown people. And now he's more than willing to bring thousands of white people claiming they've been persecuted by brown people without even fully vetting them. The answer to this simple mathematical equation is Trump wants more white people in the United States. If it ain't white, it ain't right. And that's literally Trump's mindset. You can't prove me otherwise.